These Adidas speed boots are worth $300. Are they worth it at that price point? Well, that's exactly the question that I want to answer for you guys today. This is going to be my review on the Adidas X Crazyfast Plus. Alright, so getting started here with the Crazyfast Plus. The main selling point from Adidas on these pair of football boots is going to be the weight. These are extremely lightweight. They are by far the lightest pair of football boots that I have ever owned from any brand. And honestly, that would be one of the main reasons why you would buy a pair of football boots like this opposed to anything else on the market, is just because of how lightweight these actually are. Just to give you guys a perspective of what I'm talking about, I do have a scale here and we're gonna go ahead and weigh these in real time. I do have these in a US size 7. And as you guys can see, they're weighing in at 149 grams. So they are extremely light. As you can see from the upper here, is basically see-through. That's how thin the upper is. Most of the weight is coming from the Soleplate, of course, but you're getting essentially pretty much no weight from the upper itself or these laces or anything like that. So that's one of the reasons why you would buy these pair of football boots here, is to give you that barefoot feel sensation, that you have nothing on your foot, and it does a really good job of giving you that sensation, that barefoot feel on the ball. And honestly, that's one of the things that I really enjoyed in testing out this football boots, is that feel of having that one-to-one connection with the ball. You definitely get that from this upper because of how thin it is and because how it molds to your foot and wraps your foot very nicely. So that's honestly my favorite part of this football boot, is gonna be that sensation that it gives you. It makes you feel really light on your feet. It makes you feel you're faster than maybe you actually are, but it does make you feel pretty light on your feet. So I really enjoy that sensation and in trying these out, and honestly, that's one of the main reasons why you would buy something like this. Alright, so moving on, the next thing that I really enjoyed on these pair of football boots is this Soleplate. I think Adidas did a really good job in pairing this upper with this Soleplate here. It is very responsive. It gives you a good amount of bite and traction, and as you guys can see, it does have a pretty good amount of bite and snapback. So I think the overall package of this super thin upper with this very responsive Soleplate gives you a extremely nice feeling on your feet. It makes you feel fast. It makes you feel like you have just endless amount of traction here, which is really good. It does give you the ability to twist and pivot as well because of these almost triangular rounded kind of studs here. They're not fully triangular. They do have some type of roundness to it, which in my opinion is the perfect combination for speed and for maneuverability as well. So I think Adidas overall did a really good job packaging up everything here. With this upper with this Soleplate here is very good. This is Adidas firm ground Soleplate. However, I did try these out on artificial grass, and honestly, I had no issues from the stud pattern or from the Soleplate. I didn't feel any stud pressure, or I didn't feel like I was gonna get stuck at any point or anything like that. It did give me a good amount of twist and pivot, which is ideal when you're playing on an artificial grass surface. Now, I will say, since Adidas does claim this is only intended to use on firm ground, if you play mostly on artificial grass, I would still highly suggest that you go after the artificial grass stud pattern and Soleplate. However, in my experience in trying these out, I would honestly say they would be just fine for artificial grass. Alright, so moving on, the next thing that I really enjoyed on these football boots was the overall comfort that they provide. Because of how thin and pliable this upper is, it does mold to your foot very nicely, giving you a comfort that you don't always necessarily get with a pair of football boots. These do provide a good amount of comfort. They feel really comfortable on your feet, making the experience even more appealing because of how thin, how fast they are, and how comfortable they are. It's just the overall recipe for success. Adidas did a really good job with these pair of football boots here. Like I said, the comfort on feet is really, really nice. Even out of the box, they are extremely comfortable. But once you break them in, this upper pretty much just mold to whatever foot shape you have. So even if you have wide feet, these are gonna be still a good pair of football boots for you. I wouldn't suggest them if you have overly excessive feet, then maybe they wouldn't be the boots for you. But for the average person with narrow feet or with just slightly wide feet, these are gonna be suitable for you, and you're gonna find them very, very comfortable. And the last point that I wanted to touch on that I really liked on this pair of football boots is the touch on the ball. Because of how thin the upper actually is, it does give you that one-to-one connection with the ball, giving you that barefoot feel. So when you dribble, when you shoot, anything that comes related in making contact with the ball, it's almost like you're making contact with your foot. The upper is honestly extremely thin. It's pretty much skin tight. Like it's just that close to your foot because of how thin it actually is. So it gives you a sensation on the ball that is very raw, very barefoot feel. So if you're after something like that, you're definitely getting that feeling from these pair of football boots. So the overall touch on the ball, it is really good. It's very barefoot feel, and I really enjoy the sensation that it gives you on your feet. So moving on, just how there are good things on these pair of football boots, there are also some negatives. So I wanted to touch on those points with you guys. The first point that I wanted to touch on was going to be protection. So we already saw how thin this upper is. You can basically see through it. But with that, you also get a negative, which is going to be protection. If you get stepped on in these football boots, you're going to feel every single bit of it. That's just how thin this upper is. If you get stepped on, if somebody slides their studs across your foot, which happens all the time, anywhere on this football boot, you're gonna feel every single bit of it, which honestly, it's a trade-off that you get with having such a thin upper. That's just something that you have to think about yourself and see if it's worth that trade-off. Of course, if you are after the most raw feeling football boot and probably the fastest feeling football boot out there, then maybe it is worth a trade-off. But if you're a defender or a midfielder, then maybe these wouldn't be the ideal boots for you because of how little protection they actually offer. But that's just something that you're gonna have to think about and see if it's worth the trade-off. But that is definitely something to think about when you're buying these pair of football boots. So the next point that I wanted to touch on that I think is a negative on these pair of football boots is gonna be the lockdown. Because of how thin and pliable this upper is, and because of how easily it stretches, the lockdown just honestly suffers because of that. When you run, you do get material that bunches up right here on the side. When you try to turn in opposite directions, your foot does push this material and it makes it just bunch up right here on the side as well. So honestly, that's another trade-off that you get with having such a thin and pliable upper, is that the material has pretty much no structure to it and is just gonna move at will, especially when you put a lot of pressure when you're running or when you're changing direction. So in my experience, the lockdown is very poor on these pair of football boots, which is a shame. But honestly, you just have to think for yourself if that's worth the trade-off of comfort and having the lightest possible football boot out there. In my opinion, I just wish it was better. But that's the trade-off that you get for comfort and for lightness. So we're just going to have to deal with it for now. So that brings us to our last negative complaint on these football boots here, and that's going to be the price tag. At $300 plus tax, that feels excessive for these, especially given how little material is actually here. Now, if you are after the lightest possible football boot out there, and that football boot that's going to give you a one-to-one connection with the ball and that barefoot feel, then these are very likely worth $300 for you, and you should definitely buy them. However, as an overall package, if you're just after a very responsive football boot, something that's lightweight and something that's going to provide barefoot feel, I think there is better options out there at a lower price point. So that's honestly a very, very huge complaint in my part. I think more people would be trying these out if it wasn't for that $300 plus retail price, but that's what Adidas decided to go for. Honestly, the 0.1 is also a very good option for you, and those run you $260, so $40 less than this. You do get a similar package, and you do get a little bit more of structure on the upper on that 0.1. So that would probably be the option that most football players are gonna go with. However, if you can pick these up on sale, as I did, maybe like 50% off, 40% off, or something like that, then I think they're definitely worth the try, because you're not going to be paying as much. And another question that's left with these is the durability of them. Because of how thin the upper is, I just feel like they're not going to be as durable as other football boots out there. So if you're buying them at half price, then they're definitely going to be worth it, because although they might not last for a very long time, you didn't pay as much. At $300, honestly, they're probably not going to be worth it for me or for the average consumer. Alright guys, so in conclusion, is the X Crazyfast Plus worth $300? In my opinion, I would say no. If you're just after the lightest possible football boot out there, giving you that raw one-to-one connection with the ball, then they're probably going to be worth it for you, because they do a really good job of doing those things. However, in my opinion, I feel like there is overall better packages out there for similar price points or at a lower price points that I would choose over this. This is not to say that this is not a good pair of football boots. Adidas did a really good job in everything they were going after, which is essentially just being the lightest and thinnest possible football boot out there, which if you're after that, then these are going to be the football boot for you. If you're just overall after the most high-tech or something that offers more technological features on a pair of football boots, then there's better options out there. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found any of this information helpful or useful, go ahead and smash that like button. It would help the video out a lot. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any soccer related content. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.